Okay, today in today's fun and exciting video, we're going to talk about algebra and how to solve for a variable. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, now solving for a variable can seem kind of confusing at times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through it in terms of steps. Okay, so I'm going to write out what the steps are for solving for a variable. And we're going to run through these examples together. And some of them are one-step processes, and the others are multiple steps. Okay, now here we go. So I'm going to write down the steps. Step one. What you're going to do is you're going to identify the math operations applied to your variable. And by variable, I just mean a letter. Okay? You're going to identify the math operations applied to your variable. So is it a plus? Is it addition? Is it division? Is it multiplication? Is it subtraction? Which one is it? Okay? So we're going to identify these operations. Step two, you're going to apply the opposite operation. So you're going to note what operation is being done. Like, let's say you have x plus a number equals 5. Instead of adding, you're going to do the opposite to adding, which is subtracting. Okay? And what that'll do is that'll leave your letter, your variable, on its own. And that is called isolating a variable. Okay, to isolate something means to have it on its own. So that is our main goal here. Okay, we're going to isolate a variable. We're going to get a variable on its own. And these are essentially the steps. And you're going to apply these opposite operations, okay, in order of reverse BEDMAS. Reverse BEDMAS is Sam Deb. So you're going to be doing subtraction or addition first, then you're going to be applying multiplication and division, then any exponents or brackets. Okay, so we're doing BEDMAS backwards. Okay, so let's see some of this in action, shall we? Okay, let's see. So x plus 8 is equal to 17. Okay, think about this. X plus 8 equals 17. Now, what operation is being done to x? Well, you're adding 8 to x. You will do the exact opposite. So what we're going to do here is we're going to subtract 8, and what you do from one side, you do to the other side. And so what will happen is these 8s on the left side of the equation will actually cancel each other, and you're left with x on its own, which means you've isolated for your variable x. X is going to be 17 minus 8. 17 minus 8. 17 minus 8 is 9. X is 9. You've isolated for your first variable. Congratulations. Okay? In number 2, you've got y multiplied by 4. What the heck is opposite to multiplication? Division. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to divide both sides by 4. What do multiplication and division do to each other? They cancel. So if I'm multiplying by 4 and dividing by 4, they kill each other off. And I'm left with, you guessed it, y. So y equals 20 divided by 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. There you go. That's essentially reverse operations. That's essentially how you isolate for any variable. So let's do some more. X plus 5 equals 12. Well, I'm going to subtract 5 because that's the opposite. And I'm left with x equals 12 minus 5, 7. Boom. Okay. Now, this is where things get a little trickier. See here, you have 6 divided by x equals 2. So 6 divided by a number is equal to 2. What is that number? We know the number should be 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now, here's the issue. X is on the bottom of this denominator. On the bottom of this fraction. X is on the bottom. So, you can't simply multiply. See, the operation here is division. You can't simply multiply and get x on its own. See here in example 2, you had y on top. It was y times 4. Here you have something divided by x. That order has to be reversed to do one simple operation. So here's what you do in this case. If you see x on the denominator, if you see something divided by x, this is what you should do. Do the reverse operation to division, but instead of timesing by 6, you're actually multiplying by x. So here you have 2 times x. Oops. 2 times x. So what these x's on the left side will do to each other is cancel. And you end up getting 6 equals 2x. 2 times x. Now, you can apply reverse operations again to get x on its own. See, now it's 2 times x. So I'm multiplying x by 2. So all I have to do is divide both sides by 2, and I get x on its own. And I get x equals 6 divided by 2, x equals 3. Boom. That's it. Okay. Now, in example 5, here's what I'm doing. I have my variable y, and I'm multiplying by 3, right? And I'm adding 6. Now, in our note, I said to apply opposite operations and do it in this order, reverse BEDMAS. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for subtraction and addition that I can do first. Well, here I'm adding 6. So first, what I'm going to do in reverse order is I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. Let's do that. Boom, boom. That will eliminate the 6 on the left, and it'll leave me with 3y. 3y equals 24. The last step is to do reverse operations to 3y. Now, what is happening between the 3 and the y? If you don't see an operation in the middle, the operation is multiplication. Okay, so the operation between 3 and y right now is multiplication. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the reverse. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll merely divide by 3. Both sides. Divide by 3, divide by 3. And what these 3's will do to each other is cancel, and I'll get y on its own. Y is 24 divided by 3. Y is equal to 8. And that's it. Okay. Next example, x times 2 equals 12. I'm multiplying by 2. Well, do the reverse operation, divide by 2. And I get 12 divided by 2 is x. So x is 6. Boom. Here I've got 8 times y. I'm taking y and I'm multiplying by 8. And that equals 8. How do I undo multiplying by 8? Well, I divide by 8. The 8's on the left will cancel and I get y on its own. That's isolating for a variable. 8 divided by 8 is 1. And that's it. Here I've got y divided by 4 equals to 6. I have to do the opposite to dividing by 4. Cool, I'll multiply by 4. The 4's cancel on the left. I've got y on its own, and 6 times 4 equals 24. Done. Here, I'm taking 4 times x. So I'm multiplying x by 4. So I do the opposite, and I divide by 4. The 4's on the right side, beside x cancel. I'm left with x equals 4 divided by 4, which is 1. Okay? Here, I've got multiple steps. So first, I'm going to do subtraction or addition first, then multiplication or division, then exponents and brackets. I don't have to worry about exponents or brackets here. I don't see exponents or brackets. Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract. Because I see an addition, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to subtract. And that'll cancel. And I've got 6y equals 43 minus 1, which is 42. So 6 times y equals 42. The opposite to multiplication by 6 is division by 6, and I do it to both sides. And I end up getting y equals 42 divided by 6. 42 divided by 6 is 7. Y is 7. Here, I am adding 1 to y. I do the opposite operation. I subtract 1. Y equals 9 minus 1, which is 8. There you go. Here, I'm multiplying x by 9. I divide by 9. And so I have x equals 7. Here, I've got a similar problem as I did in number 4. I have to do this in 2 steps. 14 is being divided by x. 14 divided by x. X is on the bottom of this fraction. So here, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by x. Okay, and so what will happen is the x's on the left side will cancel, and then I end up getting 14 equals 7 times x, and the reverse operation to multiplication by 7 is division by 7. And I end up getting x equals 14 divided by 7, which is 2. And this checks out because 14 divided by 2 is 7. So that's the correct answer. Here, I'm doing 6 minus y. 6 minus y equals to 2. Now, I'm not taking y and I'm subtracting 6 from it. I'm taking 6 and I'm subtracting y from it. That's a big distinction. Y minus 6 would have an easy fix. I just add 6 to both sides and I'm left with y. But here, I don't have that. I have 6 minus y. So instead, I actually apply the operation of adding y to both sides. That's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to add y. So if I add y to the right side, I have to add y to the left side. Okay? It's kind of similar to having x on the bottom there. Okay? So I have to apply multiple operations. So I end up getting 2 plus y equals 6. I'm adding 2 to y in this case. So here I subtract 2. So I go 6 minus 2. And that will leave me with a positive y on its own. And I'm getting y equals 6 minus 2, which is 4. Here I have to do this multi-step process because something is being applied through x. So 40 is being divided by x. So I have to do multiple steps. Multiply by x, multiply by x. I end up getting 5 times x equals to 40 because the x's cancel. And now I apply the opposite operation and I divide by 5. And so the 5's will cancel and I get x equals 40 divided by 5, which is 8. Okay? And the last step I'm multiplying 5 to x. I divide both sides by 5. The 5's cancel. X equals 45 divided by 5, which is 9. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an introduction to how to solve for any variable. These steps are identical, and we'll be applying them for more complicated examples, such as fractions. If you see a fraction, what do you do? Things like that. And I promise that those will be a lot of fun, also with brackets as well. So I'll see you in the next video. Peace.